Routines. Something that my life happily revolves around. Day in and day out, I do the same thing pretty much every week. I work on my cars, film videos, and pursue other hobbies. One thing, however, that I don't often do is break from that routine. After all, breaking the routine causes stress. And an example of something that would tremendously break that routine would be traveling. Yet, this isn't where I live. So why in the world am I here?
It's really early.
Traveling is a love-hate relationship of mine. I love experiences and seeing new places and doing new things. And I wholeheartedly acknowledge that you can't experience everything from the same place. But I would also be lying if I were to say that traveling was a stress-free experience. Maybe it's because I'm a workaholic, or maybe it's because I don't travel much. I do the same thing weekly, and I kinda love it. There's a sense of progress I get working on the same thing over and over again, knowing I'm approaching a goal. Maybe I just see travel as a distraction, and that's why I've never loved it. Or maybe I just haven't done it enough to learn to like it. I don't know why traveling has never clicked for me. In fact, that's part of the reason I'm going on this trip. On the surface, I'm going to spend time with a friend I haven't seen in a long time. But just below that, my goal is to learn to like traveling. And since I'm at a good age to do this, I might as well give it a try. And something that might help is he lives somewhere pretty cool. This is Hawaii. My friend lives here, and if there's anywhere in the world that could convince me to enjoy traveling even just a little bit, the chances this place can do it are pretty high. And right when I got off the plane here, the one word I would use to describe this place above all others is wet. Everything is wet, and that's entirely due to the humidity. But compared to Washington, it takes a lot of time to get used to it. You walk outside and you're just drenched. And there's no real way to escape that. So I just had to accept it. And while I'm breaking a good amount of my routine being here, there's part of it that I'm actually not gonna touch. One of my most important hobbies is working out. It's been a huge part of my life for so long, it's something I don't even really have to think about. But the idea of missing it is horrible. So the first thing I did after getting off the plane was find a suitable gym. Somewhere I could see as my home away from home while I was here. More on the gym later. Little did I know, but the rest of the day was almost tailor-made to make me feel as comfortable as I could be. And I don't really think any of this was intentional, but it definitely helped. In my eyes, my life is broken up into a number of different hobbies. And if you're watching this channel, you might know that I like working on cars and I love telling stories, especially through video. What you might not know is I have a number of other hobbies, which I like just as much, if not more. And one of which I was very excited to pursue here was food.
Time to eat.
Now, like most people, I really enjoy eating, but more than that, I really enjoy making food. I try to make something completely different nearly every night, and I've been studying as much as I can about cooking like you would if you were taking it as a class. I like to learn the cuisines of different places and the food history, and I was excited to try ingredients I couldn't exactly get where I'm from. Another of my hobbies, which I'm excited to see here, is plants. Back home, I've got quite the collection of strange and oddly specific plants, and a lot more than you would think actually grow natively here. So seeing them in the wild is something I was not just excited for, but ecstatic about. And my love of plants probably explains why a lot of the B-roll for my car videos has to do with nature. Go figure. Either way though, it kind of hit me that I could pursue, in a way, some of my hobbies abroad.
These are really cool. I'm very glad that I got to see them.
And it might sound dumb in hindsight, but I don't know why this never really clicked for me. Just because I am physically away from my interests and my hobbies does not mean that they are physically away from me. And the fact that I spent the first day here filming in a plant nursery filled with both good local food and cool cars is almost too coincidental. Now just hold on, don't get too ahead of yourselves. I haven't fallen head over heels for traveling just yet. On the inside at this point, I was a complete mess. Was someone breaking into my cars? Were my plants dying? Did someone finish the TT without me? On the one hand, I was completely stressed, but on the other hand, it's hard to be that stressed in a place as beautiful as this. So my only goal the rest of the evening was to walk around and enjoy the vibe. And the vibe was strong. Side note, although this thing is a replica, it's pretty cool. Same with this van. I would build either of these in a heartbeat.
It's early, sun just rose. I don't really know what we're gonna do today, but I do know I wanna go work out before anything. So that's what we're gonna go do. We also get to whip around a Lexus hatchback today, so we'll see how that goes. Oh, I don't mind that it has cup holders though. It's keyless, so that's weird, but okay. Watch this, you ready to hear it start up? On. That's bizarre. I don't know if it'll be my favorite car, but it's what we got for today, so.
Earlier, I described the gym as therapy, and I absolutely stand by that. And if you work out regularly, I'm sure that's not a new idea to you. That being said, working out while traveling is very different. I didn't know what this gym was going to be like or what equipment they were going to have, so what I did was schedule my deload week for this week. That way the weights I'd be lifting would naturally be quite a bit lighter and easier than normal. Little did I know that this gym would actually be really cool. They had a solid selection of plates and a ton of different machines. I'll definitely be able to make this place work. Some people might think it's a little weird to be working out the same way you would normally on vacation, but if you're really into working out, it's not really that weird. Like I said, this is one of the pillars of my life, and it's something I genuinely love to do. Working out is something I want to do, not something I feel forced to do, so I don't want to miss it.
What a wonderful start to the day. 2 hours later, good to go. Let's see what the day holds. I'm really not sure what we're doing today, but we'll probably figure out soon.
The gym had this pro shop which was selling these fruity electrolyte drink mixes, so I figured I'd give one a try. And what I read was that they were supposed to help you stay hydrated with the humidity. What I failed to read is that it is basically just salt water. Nothing wakes you up more than 1,000 milligrams of salt in 10 ounces of water. Whoops. Well, we made it this far, so I think it's about time I introduce you to the other antagonist to this little story of mine. The open sea. Stretching on forever, seemingly mysterious and endless. Some may see it as serene, peaceful even, but I don't know about me. To me, there's something a little spooky about the ocean. And don't get me wrong, it's not swimming or anything like that. I swam competitively most of my life, so swimming isn't an issue whatsoever. To me, the uncanny part of the ocean is just how little we know about it. It's the concept of it. The fact that we know more about space than what's at the bottom of the ocean completely blows my mind. Yet, despite all that, everybody I talk to seems to think I'll be getting in. But I don't know about that quite yet. Before I consider that, I need to take some time to learn about what might be underneath there. And in my mind, there's one perfect place to learn just a little bit more about it. So that is where we went first. I like aquariums quite a bit actually, and this ended up being the best one I've ever been to. Aquariums are interesting. They house information on something we know relatively nothing about, the 5% of the ocean that has been explored. The information housed here is as fascinating as it is alien. Creatures with near perfect camouflage, ultraviolet colors. It's really an information overload, and sometimes in all that information you miss some pretty important stuff, but that won't matter, right? The creatures in the ocean are such an interesting subject. They are so alien for being so relatively close, and there's so little we really know about them. But the fact that we know so little about them almost adds to their beauty. And almost everything in the ocean is fascinating. Animals on the planet we have seen literally once, deep sea gigantism, animals living in complete darkness, and even just the sheer scale of the ocean. It is both equally terrifying and fascinating. What a strange world we live in. We finished our little tour of fish and ironically went to go eat. To go eat fish, I mean. And after exploring more local cuisine, we went back and just kind of hung out for the rest of the day. And at this point, I needed the rest for the days that were to come. The next day started with a mind-blowing discovery. The Lexus had a sport mode. With just a flick of the switch, we unlocked the secret tachometer, immediately making the car more fun.
Don't be too jealous though, I think it maybe has 90 horsepower. So it's gonna be a ripper for sure. Not used to all these chickens on the road, but kind of funny. We made it, gym time. I put a video out at 5 in the morning here, which felt so wrong, even though it was like 8, which is kind of the normal time. A little early, but at least I got one out.
As far as the gym goes, today was a back day. And back is always a fun lift to hit at a new gym because they often have different equipment than what you're used to, so you can feel it a lot better. In other words, I was having fun.
I don't really know what the plan is today. I'm still not super used to the fact that there's really no plans while I'm here, but I'm pretty type A when it comes to planning my day out. I honestly break it down by 15-minute increments, but here that's not exactly something you do. So learning to live with it, and it should be another interesting day. I don't really know for sure what the plan is.
And it turns out today's plan was multifaceted. The first leg of our journey took us to the other side of the island, which was filled with a bunch of little boutique shops. And of course, more food. But overall, this was a pretty cool place to shop for souvenirs. The whole area was just vibrant. Everything was colorful, the shops were all completely unique, and my cars would have fit right in, because half of the cars here didn't have any clear coat on them. Gotta love living in the sun. After this, we hopped back in the car and started driving around the coast. The goal was to find a scenic lookout, and a scenic lookout we found. At a lookout like this, the view is quite literally endless. You could stay here all day gazing off and trying to see the world around you, and you still wouldn't see everything. Really, the only word that can describe it is breathtaking. And I'm pretty grateful I got to see it. Allegedly though, this isn't even the best lookout on the island. But we got to get through quite a bit before we get to that, including something I was a little nervous for. Now, coming into this, I wasn't inherently against the idea of swimming in the ocean. It's just something that's always creeped me out a little bit. But my friend was quite convincing, and in all honesty, the aquarium helped quite a bit. Knowing the absolute worst I was going to see on a sandy beach this close to shore was a couple colorful fish really wasn't that bad. And if anything, this could be considered the gateway drug into learning to like swimming in the ocean. So I made my way in. And in all honesty, I had quite a bit of fun. There is something pretty enchanting about just sitting here in the water during the sunset, not quite knowing what's below you. Actually, a correction to that, not even being able to see what's below you, and hoping you don't know what's below you. But so long as you don't overthink it, it's really not too bad. In fact, it's quite peaceful. And if I succumb to the plan my friend has, this won't be the last time I'm in the ocean while I'm here, and it won't be the craziest either.
And now more food, somehow. It's like 10 o'clock my time, but here it's not 10 o'clock. So it's dinner time. I'm not gonna complain.
And for dinner tonight, I had a pillar of cuisine. I ate somewhere that Guy Fieri had been, and it was unironically very good. It's the next day, early again, still haven't quite adjusted. Today I think we're going to the water again. If yesterday was the gateway drug, today was full-on addiction. The plan was to go skin diving in a coral reef. And weirdly enough, but I wasn't nearly as freaked out about it as I thought I would be. I was thinking about it the entire workout that morning, and in all honesty, I was thinking that it would be kind of fun. Absolutely the opposite of the reaction I was expecting. But if my goal is to pursue experiences and learn about life, that's not a bad thing.
More water.
This was the second beach I had been to, and in all honesty, it could not have been more different than the one we were at last night. Last night, you couldn't see anything, which is quite literally the opposite of here. The water was no different than glass, and there was sea life absolutely everywhere. If you want to talk about feeling like you're on another planet, there's nothing quite like this. It is a completely foreign world. It's exactly what you saw at the aquarium, but rather than simply viewing it, you're a part of it. Or at least a visitor in a way. Because at the end of the day, you still don't know what's just past the fall off, where it fades from clear to dark blue to absolute darkness. But the fact that the water is so clear up here, it provides you with a sense of security. Maybe it's not that the ocean itself is inherently scary. Maybe the real scary part of it is the unknown. The part you can't see. I wasn't really told much about the reef before getting in and looking, and in all honesty, that might have been for the best. But if I could go back in time just a little bit, one thing I would tell myself is to pay just a little more attention at the aquarium. I don't know, the section on eels sure comes to mind. I'm sure somewhere it said maybe don't swim next to them or they'll jump out and scare you. Either way, I didn't know that at the time, and he didn't like his close-up. So that's just about when I got out of the reef for the day. Leaving the reef and heading towards yet another lookout was right about when I started to do a little more reflecting. Part of my goal for this whole trip has been to learn to enjoy traveling. There is so much the world has to offer that you can't see from the same place every single day. And that's something I wholeheartedly believed in concept, but had never really experienced firsthand. To me, I was worried that I'd be too anxious to break my routine. That a situation like this, which is so starkly different from my day-to-day life, would put me in my head to the point where I didn't enjoy a single bit of it. But here is exactly where it started to make a little more sense. Maybe being in my head wasn't exactly a bad thing. I mean, just because I was worried doesn't mean I wasn't having fun. In fact, quite the opposite. The last couple days were perspective changing, things I didn't even think I'd be doing, and was not only doing, but actively enjoying. Fundamentally different from how I thought it would go. And this thought was like a seed that had just started to sprout. Not a belief I was strongly rooted in, but one that was new and not fully formed. Maybe, however, it was one that would grow on me. Only time could truly tell. Despite the eel freaking me out, I went back to the ocean.
Boogie time.
And this time, I was convinced to boogie board. It's like body surfing, but with a big kickboard, but most of you probably know that. And honestly, it is an absolute blast for how much time you literally just spend waiting. The whole process is effectively hurry up, wait for a wave, and then run and jump in front of it. And then pray you are just in time to ride the entire thing back to the sand where you get completely skinned up, but still want to do it again. It is a masochistic relationship for sure, but it's also a complete blast. And you would think the most annoying part of boogie boarding is waiting for a wave. But that's actually not the case. The most annoying part is when the board catches the water in such a way that you flip over, doing a complete somersault, smacking yourself into the ground, and breaking the boogie board in the process. It's really just wonderful. But once again, somehow you still want to go out and do it again. It's an activity that I can quite possibly only describe of as a toxic relationship. Gotta love it.
I am super tired today, but we're going to the gym like normal. Can't skip it. I'm friggin' tired from yesterday where we were outside all day, but I think we're still gonna have quite a bit of fun today, so I need to find energy somewhere. And first, I need to work out, so we're gonna go do that.
And it was here that I was really starting to thank myself that I turned this week into a deload week for working out. This whole process has tired me out way too much.
Workout is done. Another leg day, very similar to the first one, but today was quad focus, so squats instead of deadlifts and all of that fun stuff. Finally starting to adjust to the time zone, but it sucks because in a couple days I'm gonna have to readjust to my time zone, but at least I'll get to work on my cars. So, catch 22, I guess.
Speaking of cars though, I saw this absolute gem. This was my favorite car that I saw on the entire trip. I've got a soft spot for these, and if you know, you know.
My first car was one of those in that color, and I think I want another one someday. That'd be a fun build. I kind of had it before I learned to work on cars, so having the opportunity to do it right would be pretty freaking cool. And those engines can do so much.
So let me know if I should get another one. I wouldn't really need much convincing. As far as the activity for today, the primary thing we did was go to the tide pools. And this may not seem quite as crazy as what we did the day before, but man was it interesting. The whole concept of tide pools being their own self-contained ecosystem is just fascinating. I've been to a couple in Washington when I was younger, and it's something I've always enjoyed doing. So getting to see more was not only nostalgic, but beautiful. There's just something really nice about being in a location like this and taking it all in. Even if you're not doing anything, just there soaking up the environment and the vibe, it's well worth going. And if you get the chance, I highly recommend it. And at this point, we decided to go to a few more shops because I was more than halfway through this trip and I had yet to buy anything other than cooking supplies and tree cuttings. And buying gifts for others is absolutely not a bad idea. And there's always something fun about exploring these small, kitschy shops between copious amounts of shave ice. My word, that stuff's delicious. Somehow, despite me watching it closely, time flew by. This was my last full day here, and I was leaving early the following morning to return to my normal routine. So if there was anything I still wanted to do while I was here, today was the day to do it. And there's always this weird headspace you get in whenever you're in a situation where you really have a limited time to do what you want to do. Sure, you could definitely come back and be in that situation again, but with time passing so quickly, it's almost like you want to maximize every single second. And one thing I did want to do more of before I left was boogie board, but this time with a board that I didn't snap in two places. So after a quick trip to Costco, we ended up with some much better boards. Super well worth it. The one thing I still wanted to do while I was here was see a sea turtle. Sure, we saw a bunch in the aquarium, but it'd be cool to see one out in the wild. And this brings up a really interesting point in my mind. You see, we checked a number of places where they're typically found, yet we found and saw absolutely none. Something I wanted to do on this trip, but we missed. Maybe that's for the best though. Maybe you shouldn't try to maximize every single situation that you're in. It is absolutely impossible to do everything you would want to do or see everything you'd want to see when you're in an environment for the first time. And maybe that's half the reason people keep coming back.
Boogie boarding time.
You find a place you want to explore, keep coming back until you feel like you've learned it and it's part of your life. Then interest peaks for somewhere new. You go there and do the same thing, repeating the cycle completely. Life goes on, and eventually you see everything that interests you. Or at least you try. And maybe that's the reason people love this traveling thing. Maybe that's the reason it's glorified everywhere you look. Seeing the world and experiencing what it has to offer is beautiful. And despite the fact that it's completely alien from your day-to-day life and different in every possible way, maybe the stress it causes you is worth it. Maybe the experience can shift your perspective on your current day-to-day life. It's a reciprocal relationship. But then again, what do I really know? Why people love something is unique to every single person. So it's a question without a universal answer. And all anybody can do for their own lives is come up with their own answers for their own respective question. So in my mind, all you can seek to do is define the answer for your life.
What a cool spot.
After eating more food praised by Guy Fieri, the night came to an end. And the following day I made my trek back to reality. I've noticed that I always feel immense gratitude after an experience like this ends. Despite the stress, and despite everything that it took to get here, at the end of the day, it's hard to say something wasn't worth it. And in this case, I wouldn't even try. Part of my goal for this trip was to try and develop a relationship with travel itself. I never really grew up doing this much, and you could say this is pretty much the first adult solo trip I've taken, trying to figure out how or if I could love it the way that some people do. It is something that has always caused me anxiety and never been something that I've fully enjoyed. And it turns out, I think loving traveling is something you have to learn to do. It's probably always going to cause me stress, but that doesn't mean it's not worth it. Pushing past what you don't feel like doing is often how you grow as a person. And in my mind, learning and growing as a person is kind of the ultimate goal in life. So in other words, as I sit here waiting for my first plane home back to my normal life, back to my routine, I bring with me a couple ideas. I absolutely loved this trip, and I'm incredibly grateful that I went. There were moments and experiences from this that are going to stick with me for the rest of my life, and I hope will inspire things I think about and do in the future. Now, does that mean I love traveling as a whole? Not quite yet. I don't think I've done it nearly enough to form that relationship fully. But what I can say is I can see the spark. And it's something I now want to do more of in the future. And while that's not the perfect answer to my initial question, it is a wonderful start. I really love telling stories, and my goal with these special feature episodes is to do something different than my standard content every single month, or at least hopefully every month. No promises life won't get in the way, but my plan for these episodes is to tell stories not related to the normal content. Think of them as world building, maybe some short films, maybe a short video on something I'm passionate about. The whole point of this is just pure creative expression in addition to what I typically do, and the whole goal is really just to make the content better overall with more practice. So if that sounds interesting, consider dropping a like and subscribing. And either way, seriously, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day.